Are we matching colors again?
Kind of. We're in the
Hmm,
same
not
same
quite.
color pattern. A little off. Mine's brighter. Yours is the muted version of mine. All right, friends, welcome in. Welcome to another podcast. Welcome into our space. I do feel like you
Come
are
on in.
here with
Come on
us
in.
when we're recording a podcast. So welcome. Happy to be with you this week. This week, we actually are doing something a little bit different. We're coming to you with an experience that we've recently gone through and almost wanted to process through it out loud because it's something that was hard. It was hard for our family. And we recognize that you guys also are probably going through some hard things. And yeah, so we want to invite you into that. So we have Ed, a old lab who has been with us since the beginning. He was 13 and a half years old, and we got him shortly before we found out we were pregnant. We agreed to having a dog before we agreed to getting pregnant. I say
It
agreed to
happened.
getting pregnant because I was not ready. But actually, when we first got married, I was doing a lot of running and I really wanted a dog to run with. Being on the trails in Colorado just felt like that would add an element of safety and
Hmm.
companionship. And we agreed that we wouldn't get a dog until we had a yard. And
Yeah.
when we first got married, we lived in a really small studio apartment, no yard. And we just didn't feel like us being gone all day long, it was fair for the dog to live in 400 or 500 feet. So we bought our first home and said yes to a dog and found out we were pregnant all in the same year of 2012. And you talk about it over the years that you have a pet or that you have an animal, like, oh, our kids will be this amount of years old when the dog dies or whatnot. And we are finally there. We were finally at the place when we needed to make some hard decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. So, disclaimer, if
Yeah.
if this is a particularly challenging topic for you and you're not ready to listen to our story about losing our old dog, you can bail now from the podcast episode. We will probably be emotional as we share this story. And I think what we want to offer here, like Ab said, is we just want to offer our story. We hope that you will feel seen and known in your own story and your own grief. I heard someone who is a grief therapist recently share that 1 in 4 people. Okay, so think about this. You're in a room, you're at work with 20 people in the same space, or you're dropping your kids off for school and there's 5 parents there also dropping their kids off. You're in line at the coffee shop and there's 15 people in that coffee shop. So 1 in 4, this is the data, is going through some kind of loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 1 in 4, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, 1 in 4 people you're friends with, complete strangers you engage with throughout your day, family members, they're going through some kind of grief, some kind of loss. And so we wanted to share our story of how we navigated that loss as a family with you guys so you can see what does it actually look like to put some of these emotional regulation tools to practice? What does it actually look like to live intentionally as a family in the midst of something really hard?
Yeah, and we actually felt like for our family, this is probably one of the first times we've gone through something this hard as a whole. We've had a lot of different hard seasons in our marriage and in our family life. And often that means one of us is going through something really hard and the rest are just like on the outskirts of it, or two of us, Coleman and I are navigating something really hard and our kids are still getting to live their blissful life, obviously impacted by us, but not directly impacted by the hard
Right.
because we kind of create that buffer for them. And this was the first thing that we could not, buffer our kids from. Like we had to be in it together. We had to learn and
Well, we
practice.
we could have, and that'll be part of our
That's
story.
true. That's true. We could have. we had to learn and practice, like, how do we hold space for ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves in the grief? How do we take care of one another? And then how do we take care of our kids, all in the same moments, all in the same day? And that's where we felt like, okay, let's share this on the podcast because it's different than, when you lost your job, you were in the depths of the grief. I was a layer outside, and then the kids were a layer outside that.
Another layer removed.
Yeah. And so it's like, was it hard for them? Yes. But did they get a lot of it? No. Was it hard for me? Yes. But I still didn't, it wasn't me that was going through it to some extent. So this was the first thing that, we chose to invite our kids into every single step of the process, from when it all started, when his health started deteriorating, to the final decision, to being in the room. And we felt like that was really important for our kids to have that connection with death. But then for us, it was like, whoa, I am now also holding space for myself and for you. And it was challenging, but some of the tools that we had, I think, helped us all hold that space better than it would have gone without them.
Yeah, so, I would say, first of all, let's talk about the reality that so many of us in the first world are really removed from death. And so interestingly, right, like 1 in 4 are experiencing a loss, but how connected are you to that loss versus how removed can you be? And what I mean by that is, for most people listening to this podcast, you did not have to kill the animal yourself and process it in order to eat it, right? So you're removed from the death that is required in order for you to eat meat. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So am I. I buy meat from a local farmer here, right? And I don't kill the cow myself, and I don't process it myself. I hunt, so I'm a little bit more connected to our food in that regard, but I don't hunt enough to provide enough food for our family. So we're already removed from that cycle. And then all the amazing technological advancements and the things that we've learned, gratefully, through science and research, we're living longer.
Yeah.
So we don't die as often or as young. And so there's another way that we can remove ourselves from death. And then, as we often, this is not everybody, but we often in the first world, we don't have those elderly parents or aunts and uncles or whoever. We don't have them living with us as their health is deteriorating and as they are dying and as they are not able to care for themselves. We put them in assisted living and we remove ourselves from that experience, from that loss.
Which, just to be clear, there's no judgment on that decision. That decision is 100% what needs to be done for your family. But by doing that, it naturally removes you from some of the care that is required as someone is aging or dying. And we had that experience with our dog. We multiple times while he was still alive, we were like, this is like hospice care. This is intense. And we talked to our kids about it at one point, and our oldest was like, can we just pay someone to come do the dirty work? Like, she really wanted to separate herself from that care. So no judgment there, because, when it comes time, maybe that's the decision we'll make with our aging parents. If they're listening, we don't know. But also, it is the reality of that choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So everything I'm saying here is not a statement of judgment. It's just a statement of, this is our reality. Right? Mm-hmm. We, as a first world, these generations that are alive right now of humans in the first world, we are, relatively speaking, very removed from loss and death. So even when it's happening around us or to us, we're not experiencing it in a first-hand way. We're experiencing it in a second or third-hand way, which is different. It feels very different. So what we realized happened as our dog was deteriorating and his health was swiftly declining is that we were having the experience of that in a firsthand, every day, every hour sort of way. And it was heavy. It was it was tough stuff. It was difficult to navigate emotionally and mentally.
Yeah. Well, and it was a steady stream of heavy for an
Mhm.
extended period of time. So if we get into the story a little
Yeah.
bit, around the age of 10 for him, he started getting pretty severe UTIs where he'd get sick and he'd get very sick for days on end. I'm trying to think. He was probably 11 when he had his worst UTI.
Mhm.
That was a couple years ago, to the point that it was winter, it was ski season. Like, we brought him with us, he stayed in the car. We didn't know if we were going to come back to him alive when we got back from skiing. All he would eat, we feel like he played us at this, because all he would eat was rotisserie chicken. That's the only way we could get any food in him for days. Our friends gave us a hard time because we were like, oh no, he's playing you like fiddle. But at 10 or 11, we just felt like, gosh, he's not. And he was always healthy. He high drive dog. We're just like, it's not his time yet. Like, he still seems so healthy in all the areas. But that one UTI that almost took him at 10 or 11 started the process of declining his health. So after that, he leaked urine everywhere. He was no longer
He was incontinent.
able to control his urinary processes. And so he started having to wear diapers inside. And it was just this constant, like, okay, when he comes inside, you have to put a diaper on him because he's constantly leaking. And we did that for 2 years. And at that point, he could no longer go in the water because they think it was bacteria in the water. As a hunting dog, he was highly exposed to water all the time. They think it was bacteria in the water. So he was no longer able to go in water, which was his
favorite.
It was like oxygen to him. He loved to swim. It made his life so good. So that was hard already, like him not being able to do the things he loved. He couldn't hunt anymore. And so for the last 3 years, we have been diapering him and, caring for him in that way. And then eventually a couple years after that, he started losing function of his pooping mechanisms as well. So he'd be laying down and he'd get up and there was a surprise present waiting for us. And
so he would poop while laying down.
It was weird because it was like, does he even know what's coming out? What's happening? And we went through these processes of like, he's just being old and obstinate, and we get really angry at him and frustrated because and he was a bit of a pistol. So we felt it was a little personal. We were like, he's just being old and obstinate. And then, we go through waves where it was like, no, he truly can't control his bowels. He wouldn't do this if. And it's funny with a dog, right? Because you personify them in the way that you know them. And so, and as we were going through this, it became a process with the kids too. It was like, who let the dog in without the diaper? Like, oh, he pooped on the bed again. Who gets to clean it up? And it was always this fight. And
the
always
dog
this
bed, to be clear.
Yeah.
Not my bed.
He does not sleep with us. Always this wrestle. And, he's always been a family dog. Both of our dogs are family dogs. Neither of our dogs are like owned by our kids. It's been a family affair. So it's just been this like wrestling match with our kids to get them to help, and which is normal. None of us wanted to pick up the poop or clean the bed again or whatnot. So this progressively got worse over time. And in the last year, he ended up losing function of his back end to like push off the ground and stand up. So we got to the point where the only way he could get up was us lifting him off the floor. And because of the accidents, because of what seemed like a lot of pain in his back end and him not being able to get up and down when he needed to go to the bathroom, and he wasn't letting us know, he was just letting it go. It got to the point where we needed to take him and move him outdoors. And he needed to become an outdoor dog because the amount of urine and poop in and around our house was every day. It was multiple times a day that somebody was having to clean up poop in the house. So it was like, at this point, you're not an indoor dog anymore. And that was really hard because
he's been an indoor dog his whole life.
Yes. And he was funny because he wasn't a very affectionate dog, but he always wanted to be in your presence. And so that was very hard for him to make that transition outside. And even at that point, when we moved him outside, we had questions about quality of his life, this amount of suffering he was in. Is this better? Is this better than, putting him down? Like, is this that, these were big questions. And from about, March until June of this year, it was, highly fluctuating, the kids' involvement. And it was very much, and just to like bring you in on this process, they didn't want to put him down, but they didn't want to do the work or the care to keep him alive. They really wanted us to do all the dirty work. And we just felt like, okay, this is not the process or experience that we want for them in an aging scenario. So there are multiple times when we had family conversations around, do we put him down or do we keep going? And every time we had those conversations, the kids were like, no, we can't put him down. It's like, then you need to be a part of the care. And we noticed in our marriage and in our family life that there was so much tension because somebody always had to do the dirty work. And it was like, well,
you should probably, or I can describe the dirty work,
Go
because
for
the
it.
dirty work is very vague and ambiguous.
because it was very dirty.
We know intimately what that means, but our listeners don't. The dirty work is because he can't get himself up off the ground. Once he gets down, lays down, he can't move himself. He couldn't even crawl. He could sometimes just like turn in circles or kind of like maybe fall down with gravity, more down the slope, but he couldn't actually get himself up. And for some reason, we don't know why, he wouldn't give us any signal or hint that he needed to get up to go to the restroom or that he wanted to. Abby's theory was because he didn't know either. It surprised him. So the dirty work she's referring to is that he would be laying down and he would pee and poop on himself. And it was often like on the back porch. So then we have to give him a bath and we have to clean the back porch up. And, he would pee and poop on himself and then he would be uncomfortable. So then he would try and move around, which would just, as I'm sure you can imagine, smash it all over himself and the porch. So the cleaning job was not like 5 minutes, we're all done. It was like a commitment. Whoever had to do that job, like now you're talking about 30 minutes to an hour of your day that you were not planning on. You were planning on working or doing something else. Now you gotta take care of the dog.
Yeah, so it became, that happened 2 to 3 times a day, every single day. And then we would also have situations where we would leave for an event or a gathering and it went longer than we anticipated or we stayed later. And so he would be stuck somewhere for an extended period of time. And by the time we came back, he'd be panicking. So we started, we felt really bad about that. It was like, okay, we're to the point where somebody has to check on him every 2 to 3 hours, or we're just creating this very anxious experience for him.
And we would have this situation where we would be like, okay, we're going to leave the house. So let's help him get up. Let's walk him around and like give him a chance to get water and go to the restroom. And we would do that. No kidding. And he would get water. He would not go to the restroom. And then he would lay back down and 10 minutes later, he would poop on himself. And you're just like, what do we do? Like, how do we help him not poop on himself? And the answer was, I don't know. He won't signal us. He won't take the opportunities to go to the restroom when we get him up. So what do we do?
Yeah. And we tried everything, changed his diet, changed his eating schedule, it was like
trade medications,
supplements. Like we really tried everything. But through this whole process, for our children, it was very important to us that when it started to get hard, that we didn't put him down. As long as, it's always like how much suffering is too much suffering, and like he clearly was suffering.
That's the other part of it that people should know is like he started to, he moved pretty stiffly, like his joints were in pain when he moved, and then he would tremble as if he was in pain even when he was laying down. And so we started giving him aspirin regularly.
Yeah. So, earlier this year when it started to, and it wasn't even, it was a long time when all the effort to take care of him was a thing. We felt really strongly about, we had so many people being like, it's time. You guys need to put him down. Like clearly he's not living the life he wants, but he still, every morning he looked forward to seeing us and he perked up.
Very lucid.
very
He
engaging.
never lost his mind.
Selective hearing, but that was normal for him. And so we didn't want to communicate to our kids when it gets hard or when you have to do a lot of things you don't like over an extended period of time, that you take the easy route. Because at that time, putting him down actually felt like the easy route because we were getting out of the work and the effort. And
yeah, there was actually a point for Abby and I at the end of the school year where his health had really declined, right? All the things we're telling you, it was bad. And our lives were incredibly busy. Mm-hmm. We had a lot going on with soccer, with our kids, with our businesses. And we just weren't around much to take care of him like we wanted to. But we did our best. And Abby and I sat down and had a conversation and looked at each other. And we said, if we were to put him down this week, next week, the reason would be because we've got so many other things going on. We just don't want one more thing that we have to take care of, that we have to do, another job, another thing where we have to clock in and do the work. And we just looked at each other and we said, those are the wrong reasons, right? Those are the wrong reasons to take a living thing's life. For us, again, no judgment, right? Like no judgment on, these are hard decisions. But for us, we just looked at each other and we said, those are not the right reasons. And we were able to be honest about that with each other and individually. Like, if I do it now, it's not because I love him and I think that's what's best for our dog. It's because I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that was the process. So at that point, we really recruited the kids to be part of the process even more. There was rotations on who got him up and who had to bathe him. And we really pulled them into the caretaking because it was important to us that they knew and know what it means to be in a commitment, right? Committing to a dog, committing to a pet, when you get a pet for us, was you're committing, it's like marriage, like death do us part in sickness and in health. And that's what we wanted to communicate to our kids as well. And we felt like this is sad and hard, but also the perfect opportunity for them to see it played out, for them to see us honor those vows that we made because we chose to have a pet. And so we did that for a while. And then in the last few weeks, we got to the point where it felt like his suffering increased with the weather changing, the heat. He's outside now, the heat, the flies, because he had multiple open like bed sores from when he falls over. It would take the hair off and then it would take the skin off. And then because he didn't get up, or he'd kind of swim around wherever he was. And the flies were just eating at him, eating so much, like his ears were bleeding. So we tried to spray him down with vinegar and all the things, give him relief for like 30 seconds. And so his health continued to decline. And we finally got to the point. And summer is a highly active season for us. And there were multiple times we didn't get home in time for him to get up and try and go to the bathroom. He just went all over himself, more than normal. And at that point, we felt like we were probably causing more duress and stress in his life and adding to the suffering.
The conclusion that I came to, the way that I would put it into words, is we either need to completely change our plans for the summer so that we can give him the level of care that he needs at this stage in his life. We need to make the investment to pay someone to do that, or we need to put him down, because continuing in this fashion does not feel aligned with my values.
Right. Yeah.
So continuing to have all these summer, our kids are, 8, 11, and 13. So they're very active. They have lots of friends. They are so excited about summer and all the activities we do. So we'd have to turn that thing on its head, or at least one of us would have to be home to care for him, right? And miss out on some of those memories and things that we would do with our kids, or we'd have to pay someone to care for him. But continuing at that pace where we were going regularly, we were gone for large blocks of time, and he was alone and can't get up. And there's X amount of shade in our backyard and the sun has moved and now he's in the sun and nobody's home to get him up. It was just a brutal situation.
Yeah.
So we have never put a dog down before. We've never been there in a firsthand way. And that's what I meant by how removed we can be, because I had a Labrador Retriever that was my dog as a teenager growing up. But what happened was I moved away, and by the time I moved from Florida to Colorado, my dog was really pretty old, and it didn't make sense to have him make a big move at his age, especially from sea level to altitude. So my parents ended up caring for him in his last years. So when he passed, of course it was emotional for me, but I was removed from the passing, right? I wasn't there to be part of watching his health deteriorate. I wasn't there to be part of his care as his health deteriorated. My parents did that. My parents were the ones that actually had to go through that. I did not. I just heard about it. And then, of course, my mom let me know when he passed. And while that was all sad and I experienced loss, it's very different than actually being part of that whole process in a very firsthand, in-person way.
Yeah.
So this was ours, me and Abby's, and our family's first true experience of a loss that everyone was connected to.
Yeah.
Everyone in the family, right? This is the dog that our kids grew up with. Which, again, pretty fortunate, right? That's a pretty privileged thing to be able to say.
Mm-hmm.
Our kids really haven't experienced the tragedy of losing something alive or someone alive that they love.
That they're close to.
That they're close to, right? People have passed that I'm close to, and that was a loss for me, but not them. People have passed that Abby was close to, and that was a loss for her, but not for our kids. So it was very interesting to navigate this. So, like Abby said, we really came to this conclusion of, well, and by the way, you know, there's all the stages of grief, right, that you go through. There were definitely seasons, it's worth mentioning, there were definitely seasons where I was just angry, moody, and irritable. And I didn't know why. I blamed it on the fact that I had all this extra work to do to take care of Ross that I wasn't planning on doing. But it wasn't until Abby looked me in the eyes and said, hey, I think you're carrying around a lot of emotions about your dog dying that you're not processing, like you're not feeling. And it wasn't until she said that that I realized, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? Running from one thing to the next. Got to get the kids to soccer. Got to get this work done. Got to do this. Got to do that. And not really taking the time to actually care for my soul, which is, my heart is broken because I love this dog. And to see something or someone you love, to watch their health deteriorate, you know, to watch them poop and pee on themselves, that was brutal. That brought up a lot of emotion for me. And so one of the things that we recognized, and we just want to share with everyone by way of our story, is you got to slow down and feel what you're going through. You got to process it. You got to take the time to let the tears come and to feel the sadness and to feel the reality of, like, this is part of life. It's not something we should run from or try to escape from. Like, this is,
it's
loss is part of life.
It's not just an inconvenience.
Right.
It's actually part of the cycle.
Yeah.
And because it's been, 3 or more years that his health has ridden the wave, at one point I know I looked at you and was like, I am so tired of grieving him.
Yeah.
And truth be told, I was so tired of grieving him, and he was still alive.
Right.
Like, there was no closure. There was no, like, okay, and this is not that grief is done, but there's nothing changing here. Where prior to that, it was like you would grieve him and he'd rally.
Yeah.
Easter weekend, he had stopped eating. He was trembling. He was in really bad shape. So we were like, Monday after Easter Monday, I think is what it's called. We were like, we're going to take him in because he is suffering. He woke up Monday morning ate his breakfast, perky as he can, like
Completely rallied.
completely rallied. And we were like, we can't now.
Yeah.
What do you do? So it was like another wave of like, we sat with him, we cried over him, we spent time with him. And then he turned around the next day and was like, thanks guys, I'm good.
Yeah.
And we did that multiple times. So it just got to the point where there was so much exhaustion. And we thought about, if you have someone that you care about who is suffering from a significant disease, like this is what it's got to be similar to, where it's just this wave of, are they going to make it? Is it going to, is this it? Is this now? Is this the last time? And it was that over and over and over again. We would put him in the playhouse because that's where he moved to at night when it was cooler, put a heat lamp on him, make sure he was warm. And every night you put him down and you were like, am I going to open the door to a cold, dead body tomorrow? So it just felt like this extended period of grief and hardship. And it was exhausting. And we did go in the phases of like, one of us was angry and one of us was sad. And that included our children.
Yep.
Our oldest grew up with him, and she was, she did not think she could love another animal more until we got our yellow lab. And so she would just weep. And she is a professional mourner. Like when you hear about the mourners in the Bible, she could have applied for that job and she would have gotten in immediately, just wailing and weeping, and like having to hold space for that throughout multiple times has been exhausting.
Yeah. So, and interestingly, watching, like Abby mentioned, watching each of us and our kids, everybody handled it differently. So our son, who his preferred way of handling uncomfortable emotion is disassociation, right? So at the end, he was just like, I think we should put him down. Very like practical, like this is the right thing to do. He's suffering, obviously.
He was also the least connected.
He's also the least
dog
connected,
because
but
our oldest was possessive over the dog. So
Yeah.
our youngest was like, fine. So to some extent.
And our 11-year-old, became like the staunchest advocate for keeping him alive, even in his suffering. And our oldest, who's the most connected to the dog, was the most emotional. And of course, we are both kind of going in and out of the grief cycle, anger, frustration, sadness, deep sadness, grief, all the things. So we did finally come to the conclusion that, we're not going to change our summer plans completely. And if we paid someone to care for him, it just can't be the level of care that we would provide him. So it's still going to be pretty rough for him when we're gone, right? When we're gone for the 17-day road trip and when we're gone for a long weekend trip that's coming up, right? Like it's still going to be.
Well, and we felt like if we invited someone to care for him and something happened on their watch, like that also felt heavy and it didn't feel, because it's a young individual who came over to help us with him. And it just did not feel right to put that amount of responsibility on this individual who has never had an experience like that before. And so we would never want to leave, and if he did pass naturally, to leave that on a 13-year-old. And so that didn't feel like a good option for us.
Yeah, so then the question becomes, I know a lot of dads have taken the family dog and they're like, they insulate the family from that experience. So the family stays home, the family says goodbye to the dog, and the dad takes the dog to the vet to do the thing. I know people who go to the vet and drop the dog off and just walk away, right? So there's all these options for how you can navigate the end.
You can have someone come into your home.
We decided, again, because of this reality of how removed we are as a society from death, we decided if we're going to do this, then the whole family is going to be a part of it. Everyone's old enough to navigate it. We're going to support the kids in their grief and in their questions. but we don't want to remove them from a very natural and normal part of life, which is death, which is losing someone or something you love. So we scheduled the appointment. We took Bruss in. They have like a room for the family with a dog bed set up for him. He got to eat chocolate and watermelon. And they just said, like, let us know how much time you want to have with him before we do the procedure. And so we spent some time with him. He laid on the bed. He was very comfy and cozy.
He was so happy. He hadn't been on a bed in months.
He was so happy. He hadn't been on a dog bed in a long time because of his incontinence. Couldn't keep it clean. So that experience, what everyone had told us about it, who had done it, who had gone through it, they were like, it's so humane. It's so peaceful. They don't feel anything. Like, it's such a great experience. Great for what it is, right? Like, it's just such a good experience. And so what's kind of awkward or odd for me is when they shared that, I thought, oh, it's going to be peaceful and like it's going to be a good experience for me. And it was a terrible experience. It was so hard to be in that room knowing that we made the decision to stop his heart beating. And so if you've never done it, the way that it works is they put an IV in his arm, and then they first give him a very strong anesthesia. So it puts him to sleep, out like a light. So he goes from head up, looking around, very lucid. He knows we're all there. He knows who we are. He goes from that to like he took a big deep breath, big sigh, and he just laid his head down, and it was like, boom, he's asleep, he's out. And it all literally happens in a matter of seconds. So it happens so fast, honestly, it feels unnatural, right? And so put him to sleep, and then they put the euthanasia chemical in directly following, like I'm talking seconds. It is not minutes. And you have your hand on your dog, and you can feel their heart beating, and you feel it stop, and you know it will never beat again. And it's so abrupt. It's so just like 1 minute he's alive, having the best day of his life because he's on a dog bed eating watermelon and chocolate, and then the next minute he's gone and he's dead. And that was my choice. That was our choice as a family. And it's interesting because afterwards, Ab and I had a lot of conversations, and we went through this whole process of like, that was awful. I don't think we would ever do that again. So like, yeah, it was awful, but it still might have been the right decision. And it's interesting because through coaching, what we know is that the circumstance, right? So what happened is neutral. And it doesn't have any meaning until you assign it meaning with your thoughts. So you think something and then it has meaning, right? So all these people, remember, that talk to us about putting their dogs down, they're like, it's so humane, it's so peaceful. Those are just thoughts that they assign to the act of putting a dog down. Our thought was, that was brutal, that was terrible, that was like a really hard experience to have to watch him go from heart beating to heart stop beating. And that was our choice. That wasn't his choice. And it's just interesting because Ab and I talked about this idea of we would have felt so much better if he would have gone naturally.
Yeah.
Right?
We think we would have.
We think we would have. Know. We actually don't know. But we were both like, man, we really just wanted him to go naturally. Right? So naturally could have meant we open the playhouse door in the morning and he's dead.
Yeah.
And we didn't really get to say goodbye, or maybe we said goodbye the night before, like who knows. Or we come home from one of our extended days and he's dead. Or if you're super lucky, like my parents, my high school dog crawled into my mom's arms and died. Just took his last breath and is our heart stop beating naturally. And so it's interesting because one of the things Ab and I talked about was this idea that we really idealized him going naturally. We just fantasized about it. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if he could go naturally? But the reality is, when you think about any living thing getting old and going naturally, there's very often, not always, but most of the time, there's a lot of suffering before that going naturally happens.
Yeah.
Because things deteriorate. Your back legs don't work anymore. You're peeing and pooping all over yourself. You got to wear diapers, right? Like, you lose your appetite, but then you need to eat to stay alive, right? So there's often lots of suffering going naturally. So we had like idealized going naturally in our minds, but then it's like, well, but also going this way for him, for Bros, for our dog, was everything people said it would be. For him, very peaceful. For him, very humane. For him, he felt nothing. I watched the whole process. His body, like, he was there one moment and then he was gone the next. It was so fast. He didn't feel a thing. So it's interesting because for us, it was terrible. It was brutal. That experience was very hard, very heavy. For him, I think it was probably way better than whatever was going to happen naturally for him.
Yeah.
And so there's this conflict or this cognitive dissonance almost, right? Where our experience was brutal being in that room.
Which
And
we had questions about, like, is this just what death feels like? Like, is it,
yes.
did it matter the way that he went? Were we going to feel like this regardless? Or was it the choice that we made that left us feeling like it was so abrupt and so fast? And that's what we don't know.
Yeah.
Is if because there's part of me that, like, one, if it would have happened naturally, then it was an indication that it was time. There was another part of me that was like, if there is some degree of suffering, then it feels justified or it feels appropriate. And so there's these levels in my mind that I had created that would make death feel better, but maybe it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
In this situation, we don't know.
For me, one of the conclusions I came to is just this idea that I don't think I'm supposed to be responsible for deciding whether someone or something lives or dies, right? But then that conflicts with being a hunter and taking the life of an animal to feed our family. That conflicts with being somebody who eats meat. I decide every day that something has to die in order for me to live. But the weight of that, making that decision versus it being natural, whatever that means, right? It just felt like a decision I didn't want to make.
Yeah, it was heavy. When we were in the room and he had passed, we had 5 different experiences of grief. Our youngest kind of sat in the corner and or sat on our laps and just was present. No tears, probably uncomfortable. Our middle wanted to get out. She did not want to stay. She was like, it's done. We're done. I'm done. I don't want to be in this anymore.
Yeah.
And our
It was
oldest,
so uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable. And our oldest didn't want to leave because she wasn't ready to let go. So it was this dynamic. And then we had our own experiences of whether we wanted to stay or go or be. And so in that moment, it really was this, like, how do we do this? How do we hold space for every person present? And so we asked our middle to stay. We said, we'd like you to be here and you can sit quietly, but we're not leaving until we're all ready.
We also told her, because they have a lobby at the vet, so we were like, we honor that you don't want to be in this anymore, and that's okay. If that's your choice, you can go sit in the lobby, but nobody's going with you because the rest of us want to be here. And she didn't, of course, want to go by herself, so she stayed. So we really did, I think we did a great job of just trying to honor, like, where everyone was at and what they wanted to do, but everyone was in the room for that experience. We didn't insulate anyone from the decision.
It wasn't, I mean, it was so important to us for them to be a part of it, part of the whole process from start to finish.
Yeah.
Because we do have our oldest, not necessarily our other two, who are like, can I get a dog? Can I get, like, you need to know what you're really committing to.
Yeah.
I would say as an adult, I didn't even know. We always had outdoor dogs. Like, I never had the relationship with the dogs that I have with indoor dogs. And like, I didn't know what I was committing to until now. Now I can tell you. And in that moment when he passed, I said, I told myself, I was like, I will never do this again. It hurts too much. And I like, it's not true. I will do it again.
But that's how painful
But that's how
it
painful
was.
it was. It was like, we're
Yeah.
never getting another animal. I don't want to do this. And what is the C.S. Lewis quote you found that you sent right after that? And I was like, whoa.
Oh,
read this
yeah.
right now, but it's really good.
I'll paraphrase it, but it's to love anything is to be vulnerable. To give your heart to any living thing is to risk that it will be broken. And he talks about that you can lock it up, right? You can put your walls up, you can lock up your heart, and you can love nothing, and you can live a isolated life where you're not vulnerable and you're not exposed to the heartbreak of losing something you love or of your love not being returned. You love someone and they don't return your love, and whatever the situation is. But he says basically like it's better to love because we're human and that's what we're made for. And it's a very appropriate quote because love hurts, loss hurts, grief hurts. It's all going to hurt. What a gift that we love. We love Bros so much and so well that it breaks our heart that he's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then after the deed was done, fortunately, we took the rest of the day off as a family to just be together and to cry and to navigate our emotions. We literally laid on our Abby and I's bed with all the kids at different points and just wept and just felt all the emotions and made space for our own emotions and our kids. And one of the things that Ab and I recognized and just sort of, wow, this is the first time we've ever had to do this, is how exhausting and much more energy it takes to not just navigate your own emotional experience, but to do that in parallel with navigating and holding space for your kids.
Yeah.
It was. We all had the I've cried for a long time headache later that day.
2 days straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I think one of the things that was really important to us was to truly make space for ourselves and our kids to grieve and to have that experience. And one of the things we talked about with a friend a few days later was just this idea of grief is often something that we want to get over or get past or move on from because we see it as, well, it's exhausting to cry and I don't want to be so emotional forever or whatever our reasoning is. But it's actually so wonderful and freeing when you just actually give yourself and the people around you the gift of you can be sad about this for as long as you need to be. We don't have to be in a hurry.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people think is like, oh, well, if I'm sad or I'm grieving for a long time, then I won't be able to go to work and I won't be able to do this and I won't be able to. And that's not what we're talking about. Obviously, I'm still a father. I still have to show up as a father, and I still am a coach, and I still have to show up for my clients. And all of those things are true. I'm not necessarily suggesting that I quit my job or that I stop being a dad and I just pull away from my family and don't engage with anyone for a month. I'm saying that it's important to give yourself that space, and it's important to not rush yourself to get over it.
Yeah. We tried really hard not to like make it better.
Yeah.
We gave ourselves permission to question. Did we make the right decision? We gave ourselves permission to challenge all the beliefs that you want to tell yourself to make it feel better. It was the right thing to do. He was suffering. It was peaceful. Like, we gave ourselves the freedom and the space to say, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And that actually felt really healing to be honest instead of to sugarcoat. And we did that with our kids too, specifically with our oldest. Like,
Yeah.
we gave her the freedom to question and to
have a different perspective than us.
to challenge the decision and to confront us with her frustration or her anger or her disappointment that that's what we decided as a family. And that actually felt like it was supposed to be part of our process. But I really wanted to sugarcoat it. I really wanted to just keep repeating to myself, like, it was very humane and he was peaceful and he was suffering and everybody told us it was time and they all thought we were crazy for how long we had kept him alive already. Like, I really wanted to justify the decision.
Yeah.
But that actually felt resistant to the grieving process that I needed to go through, which was to question, because I was finding a lot of identity in making that decision of, like, I think we made the wrong decision, and putting that on myself. And so that felt like a really important part of our process that we want to share with you. You don't have to make it better. You don't have to say the things. And the thing is, everyone around you is going to say the things. Yeah. They're all going to say it. And you just say, yes, I know, or I agree, or it just, like, let it be, because they don't know what else to say. And that's okay. I don't know what else to say when somebody is grieving, so it's okay. But you don't have to. Like, you can go through the process. You can challenge the experience. You can ask the questions. I know for me, like, I had to own it. And, like, I felt like I needed to tell the world that we made the decision, that we chose to kill our dog. That's basically what this is, right? Yeah. And I had to, like, take this harsh approach to it, to take full ownership over it, and to honor that that's how it felt inside of me. It felt harsh. So yeah, it just felt like we wanted to share some of these processes with you, because there's no one size fits all. And we live in a world that wants to sugarcoat it. We live in a world that wants you to move through grief. It's like, okay, you got a week. That was a sad one. You get 2 for that one. Like, move on, move up, move on, move up. And we wanted to maybe create space or opportunity for it to look different. And then also, what does that look like as a family? Each child went through it differently. Our son woke up the next morning and he was right as rain and was fine. Our middle wrestled with it a little bit longer. Our oldest, it probably took about 3 days before she stopped weeping.
At least.
Nonstop, which was exhausting for ourselves. You'd turn around and you'd just start crying. And I was like, oh,
literally,
wow, where'd that come from? I wasn't expecting that. And it's been, 2 weeks now? And it's still like, the tears are on the edge. So yeah, it's just all part of the process. And we invite you not to resist it, to allow it, and to give yourself permission to take the space you need.
Yeah. So, I mean, just by way of offering you our story and then offering you our learnings through reflection, there's no wrong way to grieve. There's no wrong way to make a decision for a pet you love at the end of their life. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I think that you have to decide for you and for your family what's right. So whatever you decide to do, like, we have no judgment for you on that. That's a personal decision. What Abby is saying is, but we really highly encourage you to feel it and accept it and be okay with maybe you change your mind, or maybe you do it differently next time, or maybe you didn't know how it was going to feel or how it was going to be. But honestly, the biggest thing is, I would say, is you can outsource the hard things in life, the emotionally heavy, brutal stuff in life, if you want to. You won't get any judgment from us if you do. And I think you'll get to know yourself better, and you'll grow into an understanding of who you are and your beliefs and your values and all of that, if you can actually not outsource those things, if you can actually push into them and get as close to a firsthand in-person experience as possible. My coach, Brooke, always says, yeah, you can take this other road that's not as hard or as challenging for you. You don't have to feel as much. It's less difficult. It's less brutal or less heavy emotionally. Sure. But that's not going to help you get to know yourself better and understand yourself better and become the person you want to be.
Yeah.
It's convenient, it's comfortable, it's familiar. So our challenge and really, encouragement to everyone listening is like push into being a human. Push into all those experiences of being a human, the joyful ones and the dark ones. And have those experiences and feel them and own them and process them and give yourself the space to navigate what that looks like for you.
Yeah. And invite your kids into it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that, it's easier for you to protect them from it. It's easier, even though it's still a lot of work, it's, to buffer that. But I think the process of going through it together and them watching us mourn and grieve and them mourning and grieving to the version that they needed to, I think it was super important in their development and their understanding of the world. And we're not letting them move through childhood without this understanding of the weight or reality of life. And so that way they don't get surprised. And to some extent, there's the saying of like, oh, let them be little. I don't think we're robbing them of any of their childhood, but I do think it plays into their whole experience. I do think it helps them become a whole, more holistic person by having these experiences supported together as a whole versus not having them at all and then having to face them at some point down the road. And so, we are under the belief that the kids should be invited in to the process together, where we can support them, where we can process with them, where we can be a part of the journey versus let's keep them in their bubble and let it be safe and wonderful and magical all the time.
And I do think it is smart to think about it as, well, what's age appropriate for this child or for our kids as a whole? And everyone's answer to that question will be different. And that's perfect. Good for you. But you should know what is age appropriate for them. Because if the answer is nothing, I don't think that's going to serve you or them very well. Nothing hard, nothing difficult, nothing challenging, nothing like death it's not appropriate for them, no matter what their age is, until they're an adult or whatever. That's probably not healthy. And then if your answer is everything, and a 5-year-old is getting all this stuff that's probably not age appropriate, that's also, I don't think I would recommend that. So you've got to find, there's a space in between those two extremes. There's lots of space actually for you to figure out what that looks like for your family. And that's what we had to do. And that's what I encourage every family to do. One of the tools that we used extensively over and over again throughout this process is let the thoughts and emotions be there without judging them, reacting to them, or entertaining them. And this is a coaching tool that I use with my coaching clients all the time. And so Abby mentioned it, and I just want to highlight it. But all the thoughts of, did we make the wrong decision? Was this the right thing to do? Was he suffering enough? Like, just let him come and go. Don't entertain them. Don't react to them. Just think about it just like watching bugs blow past on the wind. Just let them come and go. Let the emotions from those thoughts come up and just be with it. Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Just let it happen. What's so interesting as we've practiced this is the real suffering comes from judging the way that we're thinking, judging the way that we're feeling, thinking we should be thinking and feeling something different than we are, right? This is our reality. This is, like Abby said, it could be very uncomfortable for some people to think, we just killed our dog. Was that the right decision? And second guessing ourselves. That could be very painful for some people. For us, we just let it be there. We didn't use it to judge ourselves. We didn't use it to shame ourselves. We just were like, yeah, it's a question we have. And we're willing to just sit with it for a bit. So that's our story of putting our 13-and-a-half-year-old Labrador Retriever dog, family dog, down. His name was Bros. And we, as you saw or heard in this podcast, we are still feeling all the feels from it. So for those of you who are listening to this, who are going through loss, losing a job, losing a family member, a diagnosis, putting a dog down, losing a loved one, whatever it is, know that you're not alone. 1 in 4 people that you will interact with today are also experiencing loss. You're not alone. Let your thoughts and your emotions be there without judgment. Just let it happen. Go through that process. Don't rush it. You're not in a hurry. There's nowhere you need to be. Yes, you need to go to work, but maybe you need to step out for 10 minutes and cry. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Maybe your kids are going through a hard time and you need to make some space for them to just have their experience, which may be completely different from yours. It's okay. You can hold space for that. You can do that. That's not a problem. So give yourself the gift of time and space. And if you make an excuse, if I hear you guys making excuses about no time or space to grieve, you're just lying to yourself. That's never true. You can always make 5 or 10 minutes in your schedule. And sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes it's exactly what your heart needs. So maybe you want an hour, but you have 5 minutes. Take the 5 minutes. Until next time.